Good afternoon, good afternoon. Greetings to all. I am Mila Turner. I am your social science data and research librarian. I am your guide, host, facilitator for this session, and this is an introductory workshop to SPSS. And SPSS is the statistical package for social sciences. Hopefully you've heard of it, and if not, I'm going to give you a great overview today to get you up and running in SPSS. So just to orient you um, about your guide for this journey. So I am a sociologist. I am a researcher. I used to be an instructor of sociology and most frequently research methods. And why? Because I have a lot of experience doing research that I started when I was an undergraduate student, and I've been able to work on some big federally funded research projects and travel to collect data and do quantitative and qualitative and mixed methods research studies. So, as your social science data and research librarian, it is my role to assist you all with your research projects. And if you are a undergraduate student, a graduate student, a faculty member, or staff, I'm here to support your research. And so, specifically, social science research, that is my lane, sociology. But if you are not in sociology or one of the sister sciences, I can still probably assist you because I'm pretty knowledgeable about research methods. So, if you do have further questions beyond today, I'm happy to help you. I started using SPSS early in my research days. Actually, my when I joined this research team, my first task was data entry, and that was data entry in Excel from paper surveys to enter all that data into Excel. And then we uploaded that data from Excel, from the Excel file, spreadsheet file to SPSS. Now, that was an unnecessary step because you can enter data directly into SPSS. But these days, we usually have online surveys when we just get the data files and, we can skip the data entry altogether, hopefully. Not always, but usually. So today, I'm going to take you through the process of getting started with SPSS. Um, yeah, let's dive in. And let's see, what is this at the bottom of my screen? Okay. Now, I told you a little bit about my history with SPSS, but if you are thinking about SPSS or using SPSS, why should you use SPSS? Well, one, it's available to us so through the institution. So if it's not a matter of cost, um, we have it available. You might be thinking, oh, there's lots of data analysis software. We have access to MATLAB, and you can do data analysis in Excel, to a limited degree. Actually, there's a lot of stuff you can do in Excel, but more of a learning curve. I think SPSS is very user friendly. It has come a long way. I told you I used it as an undergraduate student, so it's been around a long time, and it's frequently being updated. And so I think almost every year we get a like an updated version. But what is it? Statistical package for the social sciences. Statistical package. So if you need to perform statistics on your social science data, this is the tool for you. I said it's pretty easy to use because we're at the point where you can um, point and click. It's got drop down menus. It makes it really easy to find the analysis that you want. And because it's been around so long, it's got really great help files and lots of videos, not just coming from IBM, who now owns it. So not just the creator creating videos about SPSS, but so many people use it, especially in academic environments. You'll be able to easily find help or videos about how to do certain things in SPSS. And if point and click is not your flavor, it also has syntax, which is more like writing code for what you want. And the people that I know who use the syntax swear by it. They love it. They say it's easier to find the errors when you are typing out the syntax. But I've always liked the, drop down menus, point and click kind of stuff. And it's easier to get started if you start in that way. Um, Other reasons that you see here that are listed. It can use a variety of file types. I told you that my very first experience was pulling data from an Excel file into SPSS, so it can take spreadsheets, text files, relational databases, and if you're using other software like Stata or SAS, then there's some compatibility with those file types. So it's pretty versatile. What else? Complete data management. So lots of things that you can do. I'll show you some quick cleaning and file. Well, I would put it all as cleaning to be able to change variable types and clean up your file and recode variables to get it in a usable form. You can do all of that in here, and it also produces graphics. It says publication quality. I haven't. Well, I would agree with that, but it's been a long time because usually I just export and make my own graphics in some other program. I already talked about being able to use different file types, but it's also cross-platform compatible. So if you're using Mac or Windows or something else, you will be able to use SPSS. Today we are using the VLab version, which your operating system um, shouldn't matter because we're basically going to be using it in the cloud. I already told you there's lots of help, there's tutorials, there's lots of documentation, and so many people, especially in the social sciences, use it. Then learning how to use it makes you, um, I would say, more attractive as a student, as a data analyst, as a researcher. Okay, the how. You already know the why. Now we get to the how. How to access SPSS. Um, I would say this is the hardest part about using SPSS, going through the VLab. And that's because the VLab version can be kind of clunky. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. But if you want to use a desktop version of SPSS, we have it in the libraries, in the Strozier library, the main library, and also in Dirac library. So some of the computers and I've got the locations listed here, but I can also share a link or include a link to how you can. We have a website, so you can find which computers have which software on them. I will add that link, and then when they share out the slides for this workshop, you can just click on that link to find it. And from what I recall, it's even loaded on some of the laptops that you can check out from the libraries. So if you don't want to sit at a computer terminal in the library, if you want to check out a laptop, take it home for a couple days, and work on it that way, we have that option for you. So I believe we're on SPSS version 29. And if you've used SPSS before, but maybe it's been a while, you want a refresher and you were using a previous version, don't worry. The files are forward and backward compatible. So maybe the last time you used SPSS, it was version 26, and now we've got version 29. Should not be an issue for you at all. So we're accessing it through the V Lab. And let me go ahead and pull that up. If you've never been to the V Lab, it's not a place. Well, I mean, it's a virtual place. So when I say going to the V Lab, I'm talking about going to the website. And before you can click on this link that I've got in these slides, you can just do a search for FSU V Lab, V as in victory, and it'll bring you to this page under ITS, Information Technology Services. And you'll see on here, my FSU V Lab, and then it's going to ask you to sign in. But just in case you have never been to the VLab, this place is awesome. It's got all these different types of software. You don't have to worry about, downloading anything, buying anything, worrying about a license for anything. It's got a lot of programs and software, and it's compatible with both Macs and PCs. And so when I go and I say sign in, I don't know why it doesn't want to complete my request, but let's try this again. Oh, wrong button. I think that might be like a cookie issue or something. So let me clear that. So when you did it on Chrome, it didn't work, but Safari did. Hmm. Let me see if I have any other browsers. I don't have Safari, but I might have, oh, the one I like the least. See if it works. If it does, I'm going to be so upset. Oh, it did work on Chrome. Okay. Let me get this link. Let's see if it works on this browser. Oh, it worked. So I don't, we know it does work on Chrome. I usually do this from Chrome. I think the issue today might be I have way too many tabs and pages open. And I bet if I had cleared things out, it would have worked. But in the interest of time, we'll keep moving forward. All right. So I'll do my two-factor authentication because we are so secure. We've got to keep all our data safe and get me in there. Okay. So just for continuity here, if you were to search for my FSU VLab, get to this page, the VLab page, and then go to sign in. It takes you to another, it'll open a new tab called Citrix Workspace. And here you see all the apps. Remember, I told you it has all kinds of stuff. It says 86 different apps. A lot of them are similar programs, but if you kind of like scroll through, you can see, usually based on the different fields and stuff. Like some, I think more in the natural sciences, they'll use MATLAB for data analysis, and it's a couple versions of that, Minitab and um, Microsoft Power BI, and then of course all of the Microsoft suites. So pretty cool, pretty cool, pretty cool. Lots of stuff that you can do. And if you use this frequently enough, you can go ahead and tell it which ones are your favorites and put a star next to them. So like my homepage, I don't see all of the apps. I just see the ones that I have called my favorites. And the one we're looking for is IBM SPSS Statistics 29. And I want it to open. And so you give it a moment, it is going to launch the app. And while it's doing that, I'm gonna tell you what you're about to see, or I'm gonna show you what you're about to see. So if you've never used SPSS before, it pops up with this like opening dialog box that basically, like any other program you open, is going to ask you, do you want to open a particular file? Do you want a new file? Do you want to open a recent file? And it's got sample files. We're going to play with some of the sample files today. But this is what you'll see on this front screen, or an updated version of this. So let me go back to see if it loaded for us. Still in the process. Okay. All right. So because I've been here many times before, it is trying to auto recover files that I did not save. And it's probably from, teaching this workshop. But I could click on new data set if I want to enter data directly into SPSS. I can ask it for, go to the recent files. All right, and then I can go and open one and then sample files. I'm going to do a sample file, but before I get to that, what I wanted to tell you when I said the hardest part of using SPSS is the VLab, that's because V is, I said V for victory, V is actually for virtual lab. So imagine that somewhere on campus, probably in a basement somewhere, they've got this computer set up that has SPSS on it, and we are accessing it remotely, virtually. And so we're logging into that computer. And so this is not our computer, but we're accessing a computer that has all of these things on it. So if you want your data to analyze in SPSS, you had to pull it from your computer, whatever computer you're on now, to the virtual computer. Okay. And so, how you would do that, um, even if it's not a recent file, even if this is your first time here, you want to get it to the point where it says open another file. Before you get there, there's this little semicircle at the top of the screen. That is, in that gray semicircle, there's a like a hamburger menu. It actually looks like a hamburger. Um, Usually all the lines are the same width. This one actually looks like a hamburger. When you hover over it, it becomes a full circle with this symbol. That's the citrix symbol. You want to click on that, and then more gray circles pop up. And this is important to know because at some point we want to go full screen. Um, the thing that I don't like about using SPSS this way is sometimes it's hard to see everything on the screen. So we often do want to use that full screen button, but we are more concerned about these two, download and upload. So in order to get your data into SPSS, you need to upload it from your computer to the VLab computer. Okay, so that's the first thing, upload. And then once you're done with your analysis or you're in the process, maybe you're not done, but you want to come back to that file or you want to keep that file, you're going to have to download it from the VLab computer to your own computer. And so before you can open it here, you got to upload it and tell it, this is what I want. So I'm hitting upload. It opens a new dialog box where it's asking me to find my file and let's see. Did I keep my sample file here? I think it's under something else called data. Let me go back. Data, maybe not, but I know it's in my downloads. I just don't want to have to scroll all the way through. Here. I'll just pick one for a sample. So it looks like an Excel file because it's a .csv file. So the icon looked like Excel, but it's not Excel. So if you have done a survey like in Qualtrics, you will download your data. You can actually download it from Qualtrics as an SPSS file. Okay, so you can download it directly that way. But I already told you it's compatible with different file types. So if you just have your data as a CSV file, you can pull it in that way. And so what I just did, I found the file on my computer, then this new box popped up, the Citrix symbol, upload to, and basically I've been giving a profile on the virtual computer. And so these are the options that I have. I can look under libraries and see if there's anything there. No, because what I like to do is save stuff to the desktop. And then, yeah, let's see if anything's under my name. Oh, I've got an SPSS folder, but I have a desktop here, and I think this is the one I want to save to. Yeah. And then hit OK, or you could have made a new folder to save your stuff. And so what I just did, all that was just to upload it to the virtual computer. And now when I want to open another file, you can go here, you can double click on it, or you can hit open. It's asking me to find that file. So I go to this menu, and so you see I've got my account here. So under Citrix, under this uh, VLab computer, let's see, let me scroll up to make sure that's the right one. Yep, because we're under desktop stuff. Now my computer doesn't want to scroll. Okay. This is a good time to remind you that this is, I'll say, heavy software for lack of a better word. And so sometimes it might freeze a little bit. Don't panic and don't keep clicking around because that's going to make it even slower. So just be patient and wait. So now you see I can navigate again. And I'm going to go, let's see what files I have here. All right. I remember I told you I saved my stuff on the desktop in the VLab. Well, now I'm looking at the desktop and I see this is what's here. And I've got a few files, but pick whichever one you want. Survey sample with age groups. Well, I guess I could do the sample survey. I did want to show you I'll do the sample survey. I was going to use a sample file totally so, we could play with, pretty clean data, but that's not real life. So might as well see my messy data from my survey. And here it is. So that is how you get your data into SPSS, okay? Upload it to the VLab, and then open the new file from the VLab. Um, Pull it in, and then do the opposite when you're ready to get your data, not your data out, but let's say your analysis out, your output file out, or if you want to save your syntax, if you want to get that out, you got to save it to the VLab and then download it back to your personal computer. Okay. So that once you master that, like I said, that is the hardest part of using SPSS in this way, in my opinion, just dealing with the VLab. So we got our opening dialogue. Once we get through that, I already mentioned that the sample files, I'm not gonna go through a sample file, but unless we have time, because that's the pretty clean data. I'll show you that. When SPSS opens, because I opened, this file, I am looking at my data in what's called the data editor window. And so SPSS is color coded, which is great unless you're colorblind. But you'll see three different types of files. So the red and Windows. So the red for the data editor, the blue for the output window, and then the orange for the syntax. It'll pop up anyway, but if you don't use the syntax, usually I will just close it. So these are SPSS files. SPSS has its own file type, and so you see the file extensions here. And so when I told you you could export your data from Qualtrics directly as an SPSS file, that means you can download it as a .sav file, like here, and that's just the data. But again, it takes different files. So when you're working in SPSS, let's say we create new variables or recode variables or do anything to our data, where we'll be saving that as a .sav file, but you can also export it as a CSV or, other types that you might want. So the .sav is very important because that is the data file. And then the .spv is important because that's where all of the analyses pop up. Okay. So even if you have these different file extensions, you want to keep all this stuff together. It's going to save all the files for your project in the same folder. Okay. I'm going to get back to the data editor and show you this other stuff. That way I don't have to, keep flipping back and forth. And then you can get all of the info that you need. Okay. So you see, just like I showed you in the slide, um, here, top left corner, if you were wondering which window that you're in, and you can see the red icon, we know that this is the data editor. It also says IBM SPSS Statistics Data Editor. And then I see my file name here. Okay. And here, the other thing you need to know is we've got two views, data view and variable view. We open this up in data view, and it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm looking at the data. Each line here is a different respondent, and then each column represents the variables. So I've got data view. I can scroll through and look at all the data. I can scroll down and, side to side and all that good stuff. And then the variable view, variable view is exactly what it sounds like. You see all of your variables and the characteristics of those variables. And so each row is a different variable. So like, let me scroll down to something. This all looks like metadata type of stuff, but where I get to Q1, all right, and then I can adjust these columns so I can read it, or if I hovered over it, I could read it. So it tells me, this is a great teachable moment. It tells me Q1 single choice. That is not helpful at all. That's not helpful. And if you look at the next one, Q2, multiple choice 1, multiple choice 2, multiple choice 3. I also teach the Qualtrics workshop, and I tell them in the workshop Name your questions, name your questions, name your questions as if you're naming your variables, because when you do export it, you get all this Q1, Q2, stuff that doesn't make sense unless you got to go back and, name these variables. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention that if you do it right on the front end, then that's less work for you when we get to this point. So, get a little closer here. So the first thing that I would do with my newly collected data is clean the data. And when I say clean the data, that means I'll be going through this file to inspect my variables and make sure that they are listed as the right type. And then I'm going to change the name of them to something that actually makes sense for what I'm doing. Um, Let me see. Anything else I want to tell you about this before I move forward? So data view, variable view. Um, I'll get back to the output. I wanted to tell you. Okay. So we have data, we've got my messy data here, but it's also the same process if you're creating a data set. So creating a data set, same skills as cleaning the data. And so there are a few things that you need to know here. And I'm going to put them on screen and then I'm going to go back and actually show you. So in that variable view, we saw a lot of things on the screen. And this is one of the reasons I love sharing the slides, so you don't have to try to remember all of this. But this tells you the criteria for what you're going to do and what you're going to name. So let's do this together. So you see the first column is the name of the variable. Each variable has to have its own unique name. It cannot have any spaces. And this is good data management on the front end. You name your variable so that when you see it, you can actually know what it is just by, at a glance. Like this one, recipient email, that's pretty clear. But for all of these other ones, got to do better. And yes, you all, if you register for this workshop, you will get a copy of these slides. And this recording will also be on our library's YouTube channel if you ever need to go through this again. Okay, so I would rename this variable to something that actually that reflects what the variable is. And so I had to remind myself. So I labeled it pet person. And now that I'm thinking about it, the question was, so if you don't have your questions in front of you, hopefully you know your survey well enough to say, oh yeah, I remember this. But if not, pull up those questions or pull up the Qualtrics and actually see what it was. And so this question was, are you a cat person or a dog person or something like that? And I'm just looking at the different responses. Cat person, dog person, neither, both. All right. So I'm just going to change this one. I'm double clicking in here just to highlight everything. Come on. Triple click. All right. And I'm going to make my variable name all caps too. And I'm just going to call it pet person. All right. So that's the name of my variable. But then here you see that my label says pet person. Well, the label is a brief description of that variable, but your label, as you can see, you can have spaces in where your variable name, you cannot. So maybe I want to label this with more than the two words pet person. Maybe I'll say asking if a pet person, and or whatever the actual question from the survey. So go through this whole process. Name your variables, because if you don't name them, when you run your analysis, you're going to have something like Q16 cross tabulated with Q17, and it's not going to make any sense. So go ahead and rename them, and then you can actually work with them a little bit better. So name and then the type. So different types of data, different variables have different types, and the types that SPSS uses well, there's like 7 or 8 different types. Date, dollar, currency, string, numeric, comma, all kinds of things. But the ones that we see most commonly are numeric and string. And so a way to remember that: numeric for the numerals, string for text. Okay. So even though this says numeric, it's because my options were associated with these values and not the word. So that's why this one is listed as a numeric variable. And then the width, we don't really have to worry about so much. It's just the number of characters that you want displayed in the data editor. So, here, what is this? This is more like the background metadata progress that they finished the survey. But you see, I've got two decimal places here. Well, I can tell it, I don't want any decimal places, or this is how many characters that they can fit in the data editor. And so, for example, if I had the number, if I maybe I had a variable age and somebody wrote in 55, their age 55, well, 5, then the width of that would be 2, okay? And if I wanted to restrict the width, then I would do that on this view. But typically, I don't have to mess with it because it's, I don't have that much numeric data or string data where I want to restrict how many things can appear. And then we just talked about decimals. And so you see that progress, the one we were just looking at, has had two decimal places, but maybe I don't want any decimal places. So I'll change that to 0. And then I'll go back to my data view. And you see 100.00 gone, it's just 100. All right, back to the variable view. Um, this one, duration in seconds. Maybe I'll leave the decimals for that. We already talked about the label, so clean up your variable names, but also clean up your labels. And then missing, that is for you to define how you want missing data to appear in SPSS. SPSS will already use -99, -98, and -97 to indicate that there's a missing value. But if let's say you had something else that you wanted to use, excuse me, if you had something else that you wanted to use, and then you would tell it in this column. Columns, that's the width of the column in the data view. It's not the same as the width that I was just talking about. And then the alignment, just like in Word, you can choose how things are aligned. And the measure. Now, this is important. The level of measurement from the variable. So if you remember from your statistics course or your research methods course, nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio, remember that? Does that sound familiar? Those levels of measurement correspond to this measure column in SPSS, just not perfectly. So we've got nominal, we've got ordinal, and then we've got scale, and scale includes both the interval and the ratio variables. So, like the progress that we were just looking at, did people complete the survey? How much progress did they make? Most of it was 100%. They finished it. And 100, that's a numeric, we know that that would be integral ratio, and it's a scale variable. But if that was wrong, I could just easily go here to this drop down menu and change it. And role, the role is that the role of the variable. So if you know a certain variable is your independent variable or your dependent variable and you want to mark it as such, then you go ahead and tell it, you can tell it here. But usually I leave that alone. And when I perform particular analyses, I can tell SPSS how to read it. If it should read one variable in the column or one variable in the row, or take this one first or this one second, you know, you can tell it that way. And so you can tell it if you want it to be the input variable, the independent variable, so input, independent, the predictor variable, or you can change it and tell it that you want it to be the target variable, and the target corresponds to the dependent variable. And if it can be both, you can mark it as both. And if it has no assignment, you can mark it as none. But for now, I just kind of leave it as it is. Depending on what type of analysis you're doing, then you might want to change it. All right, I am going to pause here because I feel like I've been talking forever. Are there any questions up until this point? Okay, let's see. All right, got the thumbs up to keep moving forward. Um, I just was gonna see if I could open a sample file as well, so you don't just see my messy files, but you could also see a clean file, but I'll come back and do that. Oops, okay. Messy is good because messy is the real world. So after you get everything the way you want it, you name all your variables. Another thing to do when you scroll through in the data view, you can look and see, where your missing data are, and what they look like. Like this is like all of these are like latitude and longitude, get to the actual, there we go, actual data that I'm interested in. But again, because I didn't name my variables, these columns is just like Q6 text entry. Not very helpful. But if you hover over it, you can see the basic information that we were just looking at in variable view. Okay. What else? What else do I want to show you? So we talked about getting to this point. Oh, I was talking about cleaning the data, but also if you wanted to input create your variables, I recommend that you go ahead and set up the variables how you like them, how you want them in variable view, and that would leave you when you go to data view, none of this data would be here, but you would have all of your column headings, and then you could just go ahead and enter the data you want from left to right. If you were entering data by hand, but what I would recommend, most people are coming from some file that they've already got. So import it, upload it, then open it, and then clean it up. Okay. All right. Am going to, I want to show you how to do a little bit more cleaning, like recoding variables and also doing some initial analysis. And one of the things that I was saying that's so great about SPSS is that we've got these drop-down menus. And so in that drop-down menu, I can easily tell it, what type of analysis I want to run. And I'm skipping over talking about the SPSS syntax because I don't really use syntax. But again, if you like to code and you already know how to code, it will probably come very easy to you. SPSS has its own language that you can learn to type the commands to get it to perform the type of analyses that you want. All right. I rather just use the drop down menu, so I'll skip that. And then once we actually start playing with it, I will show you the other window is the output. Okay, but we have to have something to output. All right. Okay, so let's see. Let's start playing with our data or with this data. I gotta get y'all back to see my screen. Where is it? Share. Yeah, not that, but yeah, okay. All right. When you're ready to start running preliminary analyses and start exploring your data, I'm looking at data view, but you could also get to this from the variable view. I'm going to go to analyze. Okay, so hopefully you caught that. Let me do that one more time. In this menu across the top, I've got analyze. I'm looking at the words. So analyze, and then usually where I go, descriptive statistics first to explore them. Um, yeah, let's just start in order. You could do something more exploratory, but I like to start with the frequencies, and it'll give me the count and the percentage for particular variables. And so I'm going to scroll down to something. Let's see. Well, maybe I'll ask it to do a few. Because I didn't clean my variables, then this will be kind of interesting. If you want to highlight more than one, so I can just click on one, it'll only give me one, and I can put them here as the variables I want to analyze one by one. Highlight it by clicking on it, and then hit this arrow to move it over to this variable box. Or if there are multiple, then you can scroll down a bit. Like if I want all of these, I'll click on the first one, hold down the shift key and click on the last one. That didn't work. There we go. Um, and then I can put them over in the variable box. And if you know you want, particular variables, but not all of them, you want to hold down more, or you want to select more than one, click, oh, click on it to highlight it. Hit control, you can click on another one to highlight, and you can click on another one and move them over. And then the last way that you can do this, well, let's move them over. And then let's say if you double click on it, it moves it over. So you got a few different ways to get those variables over here. I don't know what these variables are, but let's just see what it says. If you click on statistics, you can tell it that you want the mean, the median, the mode, if it makes sense. I don't know if these are nominal variables, then it's not going to have anything to calculate, but I'm just going to tell it, give me the mean, median, mode, and sum anyway. Maybe I also want the standard deviation. And I'll hit continue. And then that should be enough for now. So I'll hit OK. And when I do that, the new window pops up and you see this new window with the blue icon in the corner, blue for the output. We were in the red data editor. Now we are in the blue output window. I'm going to maximize that window. And then every time you run an analysis in SPSS, it starts by giving you statistics about the analysis that was just ran, which includes, how many valid, as in non-missing data, and versus how many missing. So let's just look at this one. What was your first pet's name? Valid, I've got 223 with none missing. Okay. And then like, what are these? This is kind of hard because this came from a scale, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at here. We'll stick to first pet's name and scroll down here. So the first thing you get is telling you the statistics about what it just ran. And then then you should get to the actual data you requested. So I got a frequency table, which was not a great idea for this particular question because it was a text entry asking them to input what was their first pet's name. And you see that's going to be a really long table because everybody's got different names for their pets unless, oh no, 4 people named their pet Brownie. Okay. So Brownie is kind of a popular name. I'm trying to see if there's any others. So most of these are only appearing one time. 3 people had a pet named Jackson. Oh, 5 people had a pet named Max. 4 had a pet named Molly. Okay. So know your variables because ordinarily, you wouldn't want to scroll through. Imagine there was a question like, what is your age? And you ask for frequency on that, you're going to get, everything from 18 to 100 and how many times they listed. Which brings me to my next point about uh, recoding variables. I'm going to go back to our data data editor window, and I'm trying to find a question that would make sense to recode. But this what we're looking at is my sample data set from when I teach Qualtrics. And so there are questions just to get people familiar with the questions. It's not real data, not really collecting any data. But let me see. If I go to frequencies, so analyze descriptive statistics, frequencies, I'm going to take all of these out. And even though I take those out, I'm still going to have them in the output window. Though the analysis that I just ran is not going to disappear until I close the output window. And I'm going to go back up and get the question. I think it was, let's see, it was Q3 drop down. This one. Okay. Oh, I can kind of see what the names or what the variables are because I'm looking at, it's showing me the labels. If you right click on this, you can change it to display the variable names, but the variable names give me less info than the labels. So I'm going to switch it back to display variable names. But when you do this the right way and you name all your variables, names that are intuitive and they make sense, when you're looking at the variable names, you won't have a problem. Okay, so I'm gonna switch back to displaying variable labels, and it's going in the order, pretty much the order of my survey, because that's the order that they exported from Qualtrics. But I can also change it, to sort it alphabetically, if that would be helpful to you. So I'm looking for this question on colors. The statistics should be the same as what I just checked. I'm going to hit continue. I'm going to hit OK. My output window pops back up because I only have one variable. My statistics table is much shorter. It's telling me I had 212 valid responses and 11 were missing. And then this question was, I think, what is your favorite color or something like that. And so I remember creating this question, and there was a drop down menu. So the choices were limited, not like the last question with the pet names where it could be anything. And so I'm choosing this one because I knew that it would be a much smaller range. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, black, or none of these. Okay. And it tells me the frequency. So how many people said red? 19. And the percentage of people that said red was 8.5% out of 100, of course. Valid percent 9, because that is taking out all of the missing responses. And then cumulative percent, which you see is also 9. But what does that mean? So you can look across this row, these rows, and read it the same way. Frequency, percent, and valid percent, you get that, but the cumulative percent. So cumulative is adding it up as you read down the table. So when I get to the orange row, only 6 people said orange. I don't know why, because orange is such an amazing color. It's really the best color. Only 2.7% of all of the people who took my survey said orange, but 2.8% of all of the people who answered this question said orange. And then if I'm thinking about the cumulative percentage, if I want to know red and orange together, I can just look at a glance and say, oh, that's 11.8%. So 12% of my sample has red or orange as a favorite color. And I think, oh man, I can't remember back to middle school when I took art, and you got the color wheel, and some colors are on one side of the wheel versus the other. There might be a way to group these. And so what I would do now, I'm going to go back to my data editor, and I don't think I necessarily have to go back, but I just like to be in the data editor when I'm doing variable type things. And one of the things that you might want to do with your data is recode variables. And recoding variables is exactly what it sounds like. I need to show you about recoding the variables. Oops, wrong way. Oh, sorry. I thought I was right there. Okay. Recoding or transforming your variables. Let me just show you in SPSS because I had it on the screen and then I lost it. So this will work better with a different type of data like real data like income. So imagine you ask people, how much money do you make annually? And people can write in responses. And so you've got everything from $0 to $12 to $12,000 to $112,000 to, people who make 12 million. So you've got these responses, maybe it's a huge range. And you want to recode them into groupings like everybody from 0 to, let's say, $12,000. Well, maybe not 0. Well, $1 to $12,000. $12,001 to $25,000. So you want to group them into these ranges. That's what I mean. That's one way to recode or transform the variables. All right. If I wanted to do something like that, transform, I want to recode into different variables, which reminds me, when you are working when you upload your data file, your pure raw data, you always want to be sure that you save the raw data version of your file. Okay, so always keep that raw data raw, unchanged. You haven't done a single thing, you haven't cleaned it or anything. Always keep that version of your data. And then when you start manipulating the data, like even what I changed in here, changing the variable name, stuff like that, you want to save that as something else. Save that file as something else. So maybe I will call this Right now it's called sample survey October, blah, blah, blah. I will call it sample survey cleaned. So I know this is the clean version of my data and I'm not overwriting my original data. That way you don't do anything that can't be undone. Okay. And so when I'm starting to create new variables and recode variables, I want to be sure I'm not writing over my original file. So I'm going to recode into different variables. And the one that I want to recode, um, colors, the one we were just looking at. And so my new variable, so it's asking, from what to what, from this variable called Q3 drop down list, which I know is colors, to what? My new variable, I'm going to call color. I'm going to put in all caps for my variable name, color groups, color group, color groups. Yeah. And then my label is colors divided into, I can't even think of the word I want to say. I'm just going to say groups. I was trying to think of something like warmth. Yeah, whatever, but it's fine. So then the next thing I want to do is tell it old and new values. Okay, so the value of red, oops, click on here, red, that's not typing. Maybe it wants me to click on here first. Gone, let me go back. Value. If I was using numerics, I could just tell it a range, like what I just said, from 1 to 12,000. I could tell it 1 to 12,000, a code that as poverty. From 12,001 to 24,000, recode that as low income, and so on and so on. But because I'm not using numerics, I want to see my old value. I can only do a number. That's why. Let me see if I can move this to the side and see what my values were. Maybe not. Cancel this one. Move this one to the side. And colors. Okay, so 6, 7, 8, red, orange, and yellow. Okay. And 9, 10, 11, green, blue, purple. Okay. So I'm going to close this. And what I'm going to do, old and new values. So my old value of 6 is going to be a new value of 1. Okay. My old value 7 is going to be new value 1. And my old value of 8 is going to be the new value of 1. And so what I'm telling it is to group red, orange, and yellow all into the same group. And then I want to do the same thing for 9 will be 2, 10 will be 2, and then 11 will be a 2. And I'll just skip black for now. And then I will say continue. Okay. So I told it what I want, my old and my new values. I'm looking for, what did I want to say? Old, no, here. And my output variables are strings. So, yeah, then I'll hit continue. And then I can tell it if there's a time that I wanted to recode or not. What else am I missing? Where's my menu? Not that one. Something it didn't like. Let's see. If I transform this variable, so my red, orange, and yellow, I want to be warm, and my blue, green, and purple, I'm setting to cool. And for this transformation. Uh, I changed the variable label. I told it the new output name, the new output label, what I wanted to be. Oh, maybe because I didn't define missing values. Let's see. And then this missing values, let's say system missing. I think the system missing values can stay the same. Maybe it's looking for 12 was black, and then I think there was 13. All right, let me just check. Cancel this one. And let's see. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, black, 13, 9. All right, let's see. 12 can continue being 12, and then 13 can continue being 13. Okay. Now I don't know why my menu is not popping up here, but let's see. There we go. I need to change. Simple little thing. Hit the change button, then hit OK. All right, and then it is processing it, and then it should tell me what it did here, but I also want to go back to the data view so you can see my new variable will be at the end of my variable view. Oops. Uh-oh, there we go. So the one I just created called color groups. And then it's got my label that I created. It's missing the values. Oh, that's no good. Let's see if I can copy those quickly. Well, no, I can do it quickly because I created it. So the values, one is warm colors, and two is cool colors. Okay. And then I'll go to analyze and get a new frequency table. And this is the old variable colors. Remember, I created a new variable, which is probably at the end. Yeah. And if I changed it to variable names, I could see that. Yep, color groups. Hit OK. Wait for my output to pop up. And there you see, so before I had all these different colors in their own group with their own frequency and their own percentage, and I just recoded them into new variables. So two new variables. So warm colors, red, orange, and yellow. You see my frequency here was 37, and that represents 16%, 17%. And then cool colors, the blue, green, and purple, 127 of those, and they represent 57%. And then 12 and 13 are the ones I didn't label. So for the people who, I think 12 was black, and then 13 was none of these. And if I wanted to label those, I could just go back and tell it what those values are. And I can say, I think it was 12 was black, and then 13, no favorite. Favorite. Okay. And I can do the same thing again, analyze, descriptive, frequencies. Okay, because it's already in there. And so then it just runs it again. Warm colors, black, no favorite, cool colors. So I did, this was, colors, so they're words, but again, you can do this with ages if you want to go from every individual typing their age to making age ranges 18 to 24, 25 to 30. You would recode those variables. So I say recode, but how do you get to recode? Transform, and then recode them into different variables. If you wanted to recode into same variables, that's kind of like writing over the variables you got. So rather than do that, just create a whole new variable. Another common thing, let's see, if I go back to analyze, we were just doing frequencies, but if you look under descriptives, let me go to my last one. No, it's not in order. Now I have to find it. Show me my variable names, and I guess they're still in alphabetical order. So I see pet person, but I'm looking for color groups. That's going to take too long. Let me go to the data editor. Should be the same, but I don't know why it wasn't showing up. Now I know this was Q3. No, this is my new variable. It's not that Q3 anymore. Maybe I just tell it put them alphabetical. Give me variable names and sort alphabetically and go. Still not here. Where's my variable? I wonder. Let's see. I'm gonna try one other thing. What I wanted to show you here were the different options for um, under descriptives versus frequencies, because you would think, very similar, but descriptives, you can check off some of the boxes like we did for the frequencies table, but under descriptives, you see that you can get the distribution. So if you want to check the normality of your data and you want to see if it's skewed or you want to check the skewness or kurtosis, check out those boxes. If you want the range, remember, you have to know your level of measurement. So some of these things, it won't make sense. Like colors, it's not going to give me because my each color was associated with a numeric value, it will perform it, but it's not really going to make sense. I can't really take the average of red and purple and blue. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you're telling it. This SPSS will do exactly what you tell it to do, but just because it does it doesn't mean it'll make sense to have done it. Okay, so these are the options that you have if you want the descriptive statistics, and I'm going to cancel that and go out of that. I'm trying to think about the most common things that we do. Got tables, compare means, correlate. I use that one a lot. So if I want to do, bivariate correlation, and I can choose the two variables, and then when I know my variables level of measurement, I can tell it which test I wanted to perform. Pearson's R is pretty standard, but if you want Kendall's, Talby, or Spearman, because it makes sense for the type of data and the level of measurement you have, you check off those boxes, and then you can tell it, which variables you want it to um, uh, test the correlation. You can tell it that you want the means and the standard deviations as well. All right, and tell it what to do with the missing values. All right, I'm not going to do that just yet because that won't make sense with this data. And then regression, you got a long menu for regression statistics, so you can choose what you want from there. And then where's the other one that I like? Let's see, let me back to an analyze. Hold on, this menu is not in the way. So analyze descriptive statistics, crosstabs. If you want to cross tabulate, let's see what I want to cross tabulate. I have my colors in the column, and then the only other variable that I even played with or cleaned was the pet person. And then, like any of the other tests, you tell it what statistics, and you hit OK. All right, and this gives me a cross tabulation of people people who are cat people or dog people, and then people who prefer warm colors, cool colors, black, or neither. And so what this shows me, cross tabulating, so just two variables, so only two variables. So 4 cat people prefer warm colors. This is not significant and it makes no sense, but just for demonstrative purposes, 31 of the dog people like warm colors versus 85 of them who prefer cool colors. All right, so just my example of cross tabulation. And Before we go too much further, let's see if I can exit out of this. I hit the X button in the top right corner. It's asking if I want to save my output. If this was a real analysis, of course I would want to save it, even if I'm not ready or not finished, but it will save everything we've done so far so you can, come back and pick up and review. And then you can keep adding to this output. So I'm going to say no. And then what I have left is my data editor, and I want to close that too. And it's going to ask if I want to save it, and I'm going to say no to saving this one. And once you close the last window for SPSS, then the program closes. Um, we'll see how long it takes to close, but the reason I did that is because I want to get to that new menu to open up some sample data, real data. And I'll see if I can get to it from here. I don't think I can. I've only done this from that opening menu. So let's see. Yes, I want to proceed. No, I don't want to save it. Okay, and it logged me off. I don't want to be logged off, so I'm just going to go back, all the way back. If you missed the beginning of how we got to this point, then get this free review. And we're almost done. I just want to give you some more of a real world example than what I've been showing you with the colors and pet people, just in case it doesn't make full sense. And while it's opening, I'll just, kind of reiterate that you can easily start running analysis right away using those drop down menus. And so, just like I showed you, but just know that, that same thing, the same process, you choose the statistic or the test that you want to do from the drop down menu, and a new box is going to pop up. And in that selection box is when you tell it, which variables and which statistics that you wanted to perform. And then maybe, run a lot of stats on a few different variables. You can come back and remove some, and then, refine the type of analysis that you want to do. And most of, well, oh, it's open, so hold on. Let me go back. Sample files. And the one I'm looking for should be under G or not. Maybe it's under S. I know it came from General Social Survey, but I'm like, what's the name of that data file? Hold on, I have it here. All right, I want the file that came from the General Social Survey. And it is called what? It's a NORC data. Actually, any of these would be an improvement to what we're playing with, but survey sample. Just gonna look one more time. Where's my data? Not my data, sample data. Okay, I'm just gonna, oh, there it is, survey sample. I don't know why I didn't see that the first time. And I'm going to tell it to open. This is a good file to play with if you want to play with SPSS on your own, because I was saying that it comes from the General Social Survey, which is exactly what it sounds like, but it's old data, so from 1998, but it includes a lot of the variables that we will be pretty familiar with in the social sciences, like you can see them here, or maybe looking at the labels will be better. Um, highest year of school completed, number of children, age of respondent, marital status, highest degree, gender. So all of these things, or like social data. So now that we're looking at some real data, I will recode one more time so that you can see exactly, what this is going to do. Let's see, total family income. I'm going to see how they measured that. Oh, they've already got it grouped, but maybe I want to regroup it again. So they've got like 1,000 to 2,999. Maybe I want bigger groupings. And so what I would do, I would go to transform, recode into different variables, and then find this variable, which would be total family income. I would put it in here, and I want, instead of this variable called income, I want a new variable called income group, income groups, uh, family income grouped into larger categories. Remember, your variable name can't have any spaces. You want it to be short and sweet and intuitive. When you look at it, when I see income groups, I know exactly what that is. But when you label it, you've got a few more words, more spaces. You can, well, you can have spaces, but more, you can be more descriptive. And then I'm gonna tell it, I'll go ahead and hit change before I forget to hit that button again. And then the old and the new values, which I actually need to, let me cancel this so I can actually see them. All right, so I know 0, I'm gonna leave as 0. So less than 1,000 is 1, 1,000 to 299. So I'm gonna say 2, 2, 3, and 4. I wanted a new variable. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And this is another good reminder. If it freezes on you, be patient and let it come back rather than keep clicking around because it's just processing. Okay. So now it's back. So I was trying to see my new variables. So I'm going to leave 0 is 0. I'm going to leave 1 is less than 1,000, but 2, 3, and 4, probably put that down. So 2, 3, and 4, it's going to be 1,000 to 5,000, and 5, 6, 7, 8 is going to be 5,000 to 9,999. And let's give me one more. 9, 10, 11, and 12. So 9 through 12 is going to be $10,000 or more. Wait, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So not including 13. All right, so now that I know that, I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to go back to my recoding, and now I'm ready to tell it the old and new values. So I'm going to give it a range. So I'm going to say for 2 through 4, the new value is going to be, I'll call it 2, and I'll add that here. And then 5 through 8, oh yeah, 5 through 8 is gonna be my new 3. And then 9 through 12, it's gonna be the new 3. I'm sorry, 4, new 4. All right, and I'll hit continue, and I'll hit OK for it to create the variable. And I'll scroll all the way down in variable view, and I see my new variable, income groups, but it doesn't have any values here. So I'm just going to add the values really quick. I just said value of 2 was $1,000 to 4,999. And my value of 3 is $5,000 to 9,999. And then my new value of 4 is $10,000 plus. Okay. So I've created my new variables. I've told it what the values are. Now I'm going to run my frequencies just on this variable. family income group. I'm looking at the label, but I could easily switch this to display variable names. And I know it's that income group's all cap. And then because I closed SPSS and reopened it, I have to tell it, what statistics I want. I'm just going to check them all just just to see, even if it doesn't make sense to have it checked for now, because I just want to see what comes up. And it's processing, so it kind of froze on me a little bit again. I'll give it a chance to process. There we go. Hit OK. My output window comes up, and it starts off with my the statistics about whatever test it performed. So in this data file, there are 2,467 valid responses and 365 that are missing. And it's giving me the mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and sum because I asked for those things. I'm not going to analyze those right now. But look, here are my new variables. So the group from 1,000 to 4,999, I got 88 people in that income category, which represents 3%, and then so on. You can read it from here. And so what I'm noticing is that I did not include my 0 or my 1. So for people that make less than $1,000, and so then I would just go back and add those in. But there's another example of how to recode the variables. And let's see, anything else I want to be sure. I feel like that is the biggest thing that you will do outside of actually performing an analysis. Let's see if I can do one really quickly. Um, descriptives, and then go to crosstabs. I could actually cross tabulate something that makes sense now. Like if I want marital status in a column, and I want gender in a row, and maybe I also want highest year, like highest year of education. Maybe I'll put that in a row as well. And let's hit OK. All right, I've got my statistics, my case processing summary, and then I can scroll down. And so it has cross-tabulated. Crosstabs only does 2 variables at a time. So I've got gender and marital status. So I know from my sample, with the respondents who took my survey, my this is hypothetical. This is the general social survey. So 619 were married men, 51 were widowed men, 188 were divorced men, and 40 were separated men, and 334 were never married males. And I can read the same thing across for females. And I know that I have a total of 1,232 males and 1,599 females. But then I can also go back and look to see, how many cases were missing in my summary up top. Same thing with highest year of school completed. I've got highest year of school completed by marriage. So maybe I hypothesized that um, people who did not finish high school were more likely to be married, and then I can check and see, um, maybe group these together and maybe recode them into a variable so I can easily see, people who finished up to a 6th grade education, people who finished up to a middle school education, and then people that finished up to high school, and then people who finished college or graduate. Um, let's see if I can show you one more thing. See if we can get a correlation here. Trying to think about which variables I would want to correlate. So let's say age and let's go back to our family income, total family income, or no, respondents' income would be a different one. And I'm going to leave it for Pearson's R. We'll see what my options are. Yes, I want some means and some standard deviations. I'm going to click continue. Okay. Give it a chance to process. That was actually pretty quick. I get my descriptive statistics right up front. So the average, so I've got mean right here. So the mean age of respondent, the average age of the person responding to my survey, 45.56. So I'll say 45, 46 years old. And then the average income, I would have to go back to look at what the 10 corresponds to, the values. But since this is not my original data, I'm not as familiar with these variables. And so here is my correlation where I can look at, Pearson's correlation and well, the first thing I'm looking for is what's significant. So with the two asterisks, correlation is significant at the 0.01 level. And so I see that, this is significant. All right. And then 0.178, we know that correlations range from -1 to 1. And so the closer it is to -1 or 1, the stronger it is. So this is not a strong correlation, but I see that it's positive. So it tells me it's a weak positive correlation between age and income of the people responding to my survey, which I would expect because as you get older, hopefully you make more money. But maybe a better one would have been to look at education and respondents' income, which if I go back to descriptives and wait, not descriptives, correlate and go back to bivariate, I could easily swap out this variable age of respondent. Maybe I don't want that, but I want highest year of school completed. And then I'll run it one more time. And you see it's a little bit higher. Okay, so still kind of weak, but higher than the one. So it's more of a correlation between a person's highest level of education and income than it is between a person's age and income. All right, so uh, we are running out of time, so I'm gonna stop there. But that's enough to get you the basics of SPSS and um, how to get going. And from there, you have a few options for taking your learning deeper. So if you know which statistics you want to perform, then you can go ahead and try performing them, testing that out. You can look at the help files, you can look at the other resources. We have a few books in the library and ebooks related to SPSS. And so you'll see those here. And you can click on the links and you can find the books a little bit later. But again, SPSS is great tutorials and great help because so many people use it. So if you need to know how to do a particular type of analysis or interpret a particular type of analysis, then you can do that. And also, you have me. I am a resource for you if you need a refresher on cleaning your data or running, some basic types of analyses. We do have other librarians that can help you with data analysis as well. But, for SPSS, I can help you and I know a few others can. So you can reach out to me. Um, with these last 2 minutes, I will ask that you take this survey about today's workshop. I'm also going to put a link in the chat and you can take it that way as well. That's not the link. Where's my link? It copied my VLab link, so let me get you the actual link. I will copy that, put it in the chat if you have not already scanned it. There you go. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. If there are any questions I can answer for you now, I'm happy to. And if not, here's my contact information for you to answer questions later. Hopefully now you all have enough to just get you started here. This was just an introduction and you've got the resources to go deeper. So please go deeper and let me know if you have other concerns, questions, or other, if you're ready for a part two, you want to have a part two, just let us know. Thanks, y'all. I'll hang on for another minute in case there are questions, but otherwise I'll let you get to your survey without me talking.